Hi, and welcome to another episode of Transform One More, our special Father's Day edition. And I am so pleased for this particular episode because I have a guest with me. I have Dr. Dennis Marshall, who's going to share just a conversation with us. And I will call him Uncle Dennis because that's how I know him. And Dr. Dennis is a retired school administrator, and he was also a pastor, and he functioned as a teacher. He was the Director of Education and the General Vice President for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Canada, and he's going to tell us a bit more of his life history as well. Welcome, Uncle Dennis. So pleased to have you here. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Of course. I began my teaching career in Trinidad, in Point Fortin where I live, Egypt Village Government School. I taught elementary school for 5 years. Then I migrated to Canada in 1970 and attended the University of Toronto, where I got my undergraduate degree and my advanced degrees as well, and entered the teaching profession in Canada in 1976, public school, high school. And I spent 25 years as a teacher and school administrator in the public school system, and then transitioned into our system, Adventist school system, where I became a pastor for a few years, and then I was promoted, so to speak, to become the superintendent of education for the Ontario Conference, and 4 years later to become the director of education for the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Canada, where I served for 16 years as well. So altogether, my career spanned about probably 45 years altogether. And I retired in 2016, came back to Trinidad, where I reside right now.
Excellent. Thank you. And one of the things we didn't mention is that Uncle Dennis is also an author. He's an author of one book published and one that is soon to be published. And I have one here with me, Spiritual Transformation, which I personally read. And it's about a story of two particular individuals, Miss Enid and the bad man Brigo, and how they transformed their lives from what it was to what it needed to be. And Uncle Dennis also has another book which we'll speak a little bit about shortly. But tell us a bit about why you started writing. What made you think that these books needed to be out there?
Well, I always liked writing. As a young boy, age 12, I wrote poems and so forth. But the book Spiritual Transformation was born out of my experience growing up in Labrie, Trinidad, in the village. And the characters in the book are people who I know personally, and I've seen them transformed into what they became from what they were. And that transformation was miraculous, especially with Badman Brigo. The whole community was amazed by that transformation. And I believe that once someone is being touched by the Holy Spirit, their life transformation is going to be very spectacular, and people can't help but notice that. And they demonstrate that they have been touched by Jesus Christ in a very particular way, as these two individuals were. And the other part of the book deals with my understanding of what it means to be spiritual through the reading of the Bible and being able to see other people's life being transformed spiritually through worship and through fellowship and so forth.
And in speaking about transformation, now this book is Spiritual Transformation, and I got really excited when I saw the title because this channel is Transform One More, where we deal with changing from one thing to the next, and that positive, lasting change, not just change, overnight change, a change that lasts for a long time.
Yeah.
And when we talk about transformation, about changing from one state to the next, what would you see as the greatest or one of the greatest challenges in actually transforming your life from what it was to what it needs to be?
I believe once you decide to make a change in your life, your lifestyle, for example, it will affect people around you, your family members, your neighbors, your friends, because you may have a different kind of relationship with them from that point on. And sometimes the relationship may get sour because your values now have changed. And so if you were to think more in terms of pleasing your neighbor, pleasing your family, then transformation is difficult. If you are more concerned about changing your lifestyle and pleasing your family, then transformation is possible. And through that transformed lifestyle, you'll be surprised how powerful you may have an effect on other people's lives.
And that change, sometimes the resistance, the greatest pushback actually comes from those that are closest to you.
Definitely.
You know, I heard one person say that you need to step out, you need to take that change, because it's only when you go and you or yourself are transformed, then you can actually be in a better position to come back and to help those, you know, who may have not seen what you saw and where you were going. So that's excellent. And there was also an aspect, I think, of fear. How do you think fear plays into that whole change, that transformation?
Well, fear is because of your uncertainty of the future. You more or less think in terms of failure because it's so challenging. If you think in terms of failure, you will never move forward. Also, if you think in terms of being completely changed in one moment, you will never move forward. Changes normally take place in steps. And the first step that you take and you experience success gives you the motivation to take the next step and the next step and the next step.
You can't really wait to see the outcome before you actually start progressing or taking steps towards that direction. Excellent. We looked at your life as an author, and the new book that's soon to come out, Launch Past to Paradise. Now this book is actually about education being the key to success. So firstly, tell us about the title, Launch Past to Paradise, how we came up with quite an intriguing title, I think. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the title was born out of experience. I was asked by my mom to take lunch to my brother who worked in a company called Lake Asphalt, run by the British. A very exclusive place that we locals call Paradise, because it was so different from our residences and so forth. To get to Paradise, you had to have a special pass because the security guards will not allow you to go on the grounds unless you have this special pass. So when I approached the security guard, he asked me for a pass. I said I didn't have a pass. I was just bringing lunch for my brother who works in the company. So he said, okay, you must have a pass to be able to get into the compound. I will give you a temporary pass so that you can get to your brother. So he gave me a pass and he said to me, don't walk on the grass, walk on the road. And at the next junction, you see another security guard. Give him the pass and tell him what you're about. And that's what I did. Amazingly, as I entered the compound, I saw this vast expanse of greenery, a golf course that expanded from the security guard's booth straight to the sea about 1.5 miles beyond. And I saw some white men playing golf and 4 black boys as being the caddies. And I was just wondering what's going on here. And I saw one of the white guys take the ball, put it on the ground, use its club, and hit the ball, and it went sailing into the air. And the other 3 joined afterwards and did the same thing. And then they walked towards where the ball went, and the caddies took their bags and were walking towards them. So that was a very interesting experience for me. Paradise are things that we never saw in our villages. So we got to Paradise, and that's how I said, the title of my book, when I saw what's happening in Paradise, I said this is Launch Past to Paradise. That's how the title was born.
And it speaks about education being that key to get you there. Yeah. And we know you all, from your career, you were the director of education for the department of the Seventh-day Adventist. So how does that education play into that pathway?
When I returned home and I gave my mother the experience, she made a very interesting comment. She said to me, so tell me something, Dennis. Do you want to be the guy who carries the bag or the guy who hits the ball? I said, I would love to be the guy who hits the ball. He said, well, therefore, if you want to be the guy who hits the ball, you need an education. An incentive for me now to focus on education, because previously, education has not been my main thing. Sports and recreation was it. And from that point on, when I saw what was going on in Paradise, I was determined to be one of the guys who hit the ball and not one of the guys who carried the bag. And therefore, education was going to be a key factor in my growing up experience.
Excellent. I'm getting goosebumps just listening to this. Exciting. Really, really key points there, because it touches close to some of the values that we try to emulate and to share on this channel as well. The key value and the importance of educating yourself and of changing that mindset of taking you to the next level. Excellent. We're also looking at your role also as a father. As we look at this Father's Day episode, tell us, what do you think define your philosophy as a father?
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a home where my father was not always present. We call him the absentee father. He worked out of the district and he established a new home where he worked. So I saw him on weekends for brief periods of time. But I loved my father very much, but he was not very attentive to me because he was more concerned of his job as a pharmacist in the outside world than being a father to me in our home, for example. So I was determined to be a different kind of father, a father who will speak to his children and with his children on a regular basis, be kind to them, being able to provide for them, being able to love them and be loved by them. So I had to develop a different mindset altogether. And part of my mindset formation was because of my spiritual experience with God. Having read books about religion and the Bible, and I developed a sort of relationship with God and with my children, my family, that helped me to become a better father, a more humble person, a father who listens to his children, a father who is compassionate, a father who wants to provide for them as best as possible. And therefore, that was my whole intention, to become the best possible father I could be with the resources I had available at my disposal.
And if you had to give advice to a father today, would that come into the advice as well?
I would say spend as much time with your children as possible, even though at times that may be difficult. In my situation, I spent many years studying, and as a result of my studies and my devotion to my studies, sometimes my children were neglected. But luckily, I had a wife who was very, very responsible and took up where I wasn't able to be very responsible, so to speak. So I would advise fathers to be more considerate of the children, spend more time with them, be involved with the activities if you can, whether it is sports, whether it is in a reading club, for example, or whether it is just traveling. I spent many days in my vacation traveling with my kids across Canada with a Volkswagen Beetle. We went to all different parts of Canada. And that was it. I was able to bond with them on those special occasions. The memories will live forever, part of my legacy, I guess.
Excellent. I suggest say that Uncle Dennis has adult children. He has a son and a daughter, and they're all grown. He has 2 grandchildren as well. So he's passed through a spectrum of fatherhood. And as you think about balancing love and discipline, I know that whole aspect of discipline, sometimes it falls to the father, sometimes, it's both mother and father. But how do you balance that love, but yet still being firm when you need to instill discipline in your children?
Well, I was always very loving to my children. I listened to them, their complaints, their requests, and so forth. I was not the disciplinarian, my wife was, so we didn't have to really double up on that. If we had a disagreement in terms of how we discipline our children, we will discuss it privately first, and then publicly we'll be able to demonstrate what we believe is the best possible way of disciplining our children.
And as we kind of conclude now, and you think about your life, your work, and your projects that you probably engage in, what would you want your legacy to be?
So as I did mention, I spent lots of time studying, from being undergraduate to becoming a doctor in education. Many years. I went to England, for example, and spent about 6 months doing research on a particular thesis topic. And therefore, I cherish what I call being persistent, being devoted to the calling that you have before you. So the legacy I'd love to leave is that whatever you do according to the Bible, do with all your might, with all your strength, with all your love and all your devotion, and do it as you are doing it to God and to man, giving the very best that you can. The values that you leave behind are more important than the possessions you leave behind. So always try to be compassionate, to be loving, to be kind, merciful, truthful, And if your children can mimic those values that you have tried to inculcate in their minds, then that legacy is most cherished and the best. In fact, the Bible says that wisdom is the principal thing. Seek wisdom and also get understanding. May I focus on one point here, that my paradise was when I was able to reach my ultimate goal through education, a point of success, and then I was able to pass on my experiences to other people to encourage them who feel that they are incapable of achieving. Give them my life experience, and then they are motivated to move ahead and to believe in themselves.
Of everything, seek wisdom and get understanding. Excellent. I just thank you very much, Uncle Dennis, for having this conversation and for sharing with our viewers your insights. And remember that you were created to climb mountains and reach the top. You will learn, you will grow, you will succeed, because you are an overcomer, you are a conqueror, and you are a winner. Thank you again, Uncle Dennis. Thank you for viewing, and see you all again soon.